Welcome to this chess game review entitled What Might Have Been, in which we see Anatoly Karpov with the white pieces versus Boris Spassky with black. And this game was played in 1974. And this battle between these two chess legends, it kind of shows us what possibly may have happened if Bobby Fischer, who forfeited his World Chess Championship title in 1975. So Fischer won the title in 1972. He was supposed to play Karpov in 75, but he could not agree to the terms of the match, and so his title was forfeited and given to Karpov. Now, Fischer played Spassky in the 72 World Chess Championship and beat Spassky, and so here we have a matchup between Spassky and Karpov, and we'll see how this game plays out. But this maybe could give us a glimpse into what might have been if Karpov and Fischer played each other in 1975. And let's begin here. Karpov with the white pieces moves to d4. And knight to f6, response by Spassky. And so here we have c4. Both these pawns taking control of the center, and e6 here by Spassky, which allows the bishop room to develop, and white replies with knight to f3, helping to fight for the center, and now d5. And so the game has transposed into a Queen's Gambit declined, and so now we have knight to c3 and bishop to e7. And so here this bishop will help guard against a bishop to g5 pin on this knight, which is what white does here. And h6, attacking the bishop and forcing the bishop to make a decision to capture or retreat. And so we have a retreat here, castling by black, and e3 to help fortify the center, but also to allow this bishop room to recapture potentially if we have d takes c4. And an issue in this position on black's side is this e6 pawn move has blocked in this bishop. And so here with b6, it gives the bishop an avenue to develop here on this diagonal and move into b7. And developing by white, bishop to e7, or excuse me, bishop to e2. And bishop to b7. And here the bishop captures this knight on f6 and recapture. And now this bishop eyes the center of the board here, which is protected for the moment. But black would like to, at some point, push this pawn forward from c7 to c5 to counterattack the center. And white captures with his c-pawn towards the center, exchanging off one of black's central pawns. And so after capture, we have castling by white, and the queen moves up here to d6, eyeing white's king side. And now the rook moves to c1 to fight for this open file here. And a6, preventing this knight or bishop from controlling and jumping up to this b5 square here. and a3, preparing a push here to b5. And finally, this knight develops, moving off the back rank, and here it can support a c5 pawn push. But white tries to stop this by moving to b4. And here we have a push forward to b5, where this will help black reposition his knight possibly to b6 and then jump into this outpost here on c4 and be protected by both the b5 and d5 pawns. And so white remaneuvers his knight back to e1, where it can jump forward, potentially up to d3, and then into the c5 outpost. And pawn moving up to c6 to help protect this central pawn. And the knight jumps up to d3, preparing to jump into this spot here on c5. And black moving down here to b6, preparing to jump into c4. And now we have an attack here on the queen side with this pawn moving up, putting pressure on this pawn, but also threatening to move forward and gain space on the queen side if this pawn is not captured. And so the bishop maneuvers back to the first rank, where it can reposition here to c7 and produce a checkmate threat here on h2. And the knight jumps into this outpost, attacking the bishop, and the bishop retreats. And now we have a pawn push, a5, gaining space and threatening this knight, forcing it to make a decision to either retreat or jump into the outpost. But here, first, we have this checkmate threat before black decides what to do with his knight on b6. And so g3, stopping this checkmate threat, and the knight jumps into the outpost on c4. And now Karpov pushes forward in the center, attacking the central d5 pawn with his e4 pawn push, also threatening to push forward and gain more space in the center by attacking the queen. But first we have bishop to h3, attacking this rook on f1, and so white moves the rook, and then an exchange in the center here. And the knight recaptures, attacking the queen, and the queen is forced to move here to g6, where it eyes the king and pins this pawn to the king, and possibly preparing for an f4, or excuse me, f5 pawn push, and then moving down to f4 where it could attack this pawn. And here we have bishop to h5, attacking the queen, forcing this queen back and not allowing time for an immediate pawn push here by black. So the queen retreats to h7, and then we have a repositioning of the queen here to f3, where it will eye this pawn on c6, potentially capturing that pawn after this knight moves. And so the pawn is finally pushed by black here to f5, attacking the knight on e4, and so the knight retreats, and now we have this g6 pawn move here, and white's bishop is trapped. And so, ignoring this bishop that's under attack, the queen captures on c6, moving into black's position. So black captures, going ahead in material here, but opening up his king side. And so here this knight jumps up into black's position. So now we have a threat to recapture the bishop here, to capture the bishop and even the material balance. And so black presses forward with the attack on white's king side here. And now rook to e7. And so this move brings another piece up and bears down not only on the king side here of black's, but also attacks this bishop and the queen. And so the queen moves, and now we have a capture of this bishop. And so here, if we look at the position, we see that white is ahead a pawn, and black's position, his pawn cover has been destroyed here on the king side. His king is wide open here. We have two knights, a rook, a queen, ready to jump over here and attack the king. And the only threat here is the bishop around white's king side. If the queen could somehow maneuver in, for a checkmate threat here, but Karpov does not give Spassky any time for that. And so the rook tries to take control in the center and get some type of counterplay, but after the queen captures here on h6, we have a threat of checkmate on g7 here. And so black must stop that threat, so he blocks here with this rook move. And after a capture and capture, we have two knights and the queen, and black's king is just hanging out in the open here, which is not good at all for Spassky. And so here we have a potential trade-off of queens, but that is refused by Spassky, and he moves down, trying to get some type of counterplay here. But after check and a king move, we have white remaneuvering this knight down here to stop any threats on white's king side. And so here Spassky resigned and Karpov won this game. So this may have been a glimpse into what might have happened if Karpov and Fischer had ended up playing. I'm sure that would have been a very interesting battle if that had ever occurred, which many chess fans missed out by not having the opportunity to see a Karpov-Fischer battle for the World Championship title. And so I hope you've enjoyed that review of this Karpov versus Boris Spassky matchup here from 1974. It was played in Russia, in Leningrad. And if you've enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe, and feel free to leave comments or suggestions. Thank you, and have a great day.